ärztliche Behandlung. Er hat ja gesagt, das ist die größte Suppenküche in München. Ach was. Und Andex finanziert?
Ja, das weiß ich. Also, diesen Pater, den ehemaligen abkirchlichen Pater, den habe ich vor Ende der 50er Jahre einmal in Andex kennengelernt, weil wir da die Brauerei besichtigt haben. Die wollten an die US-Armee liefern.
Ja.
Und das war das erste Mal, dass ich mit meinem Chef auf Inspektionstour gefahren bin.
You want us to speak English?
No.
No? Ach, das war das erste Mal ausgerechnet bei Andex.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had to do it. And we were sitting together afterwards, and they were, had offered us beer, and I wouldn't drink beer at this time. I didn't like it, and very shortly afterwards, we went to the Oktoberfest with friends. And all of a sudden, I liked this.
You like the beer?
Well, of course, the Oktoberfest beer is especially good.
Yeah, and especially strong and
I
thick
got
and
drunk
sweet.
on it. But, well, it was fun, really.
Hello.
Hello, Kevin. So nice to see you.
Oh,
Hannalore,
Hi.
who met Jim. And Jim took us around Boston.
All right. Very good.
And this is Gaby Theisinger, Gaby, Kevin Spicer.
So, hi.
And
You're the filmmaker.
Yes, and you met her on the steps of the Wentworth Hotel one day when we were going to lunch there.
Ah, okay.
You can't see his face now.
Oh, you got your parking place already. Perfect.
Yes.
Great.
Yes,
Very good.
Fatna told us.
Yes.
So what we did was we moved the little...
Yes, that's what he told me to do.
Area.
Oh, that worked out well. Good. Yes.
Well, so nice to
Yes.
see you.
Yes, good to
You've
see
been
you.
here a couple of weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been going very well. Lots of goodies from the archives. So, yeah. And you got in Wednesday?
We got in Wednesday,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Picked up a very nice rental car, which is now parked at one of the suburban train stations, so that when Gaby has to leave, she can go directly home.
Oh, okay.
We'll take the train
All right.
from anywhere along here to that stop, and then Herb can drive the rest of the
Perfect.
way.
Great. Very good. Had it all planned. So we have a beautiful day here today. Yeah, the weather's been very nice.
Are you ready for some serious walking?
I'm in good shape right now. Yeah.
Good. How much longer will you be in Munich?
Until Friday morning. Yeah.
So we might still be able to see you one evening.
An evening, yeah. An evening could be, yeah. I'm in the archive each day till 4:30. Yeah.
Now Gaby will have to leave by 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So
all right.
any
That's no
walking
problem.
we do, we might
We have to
stop
get back
somewhere.
here. Okay. We
yeah.
can always take the subway if you need to.
Yeah.
But
Do you have a pass for the subway?
I don't, but I can buy something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I can walk to the archive, so most everything
Yeah,
I can
of
walk to.
course,
It's so
yeah.
central here,
Yeah.
so I've taken
Is
it
that
a few
on
times.
Cardinal Faulhaber?
It's near, there's on Pacelli Straße,
Pacelli,
and
yeah.
there's another one
Yeah,
somewhere that is directly
Promenadeplatz,
north.
Yeah,
But it's-
Promenade.
Ja, das stimmt. Ja.
By the most
You speak
expensive
German,
hotel.
don't you?
Ja, Ilse war mein deutscher Lehrer, aber ich mache viele Fehler. Ja. Ich glaube, warte.
Ist lange her, gell?
Ja, aber in die Klasse mal oder nur privat?
No,
Ja, in einmal
das war
in
am
Klasse.
Goethe, ja, war am Goethe.
Ja. Aber nicht für mein Grundstück, weil ich hatte meine erste Lehrerin beim Goethe-Institut, bei Nick, sie war neu, es war eine neue Klasse. für
Ja,
sie.
die hat immer sehr viel Englisch gesprochen im Unterricht, was natürlich sehr schlecht war, gell?
Ja, weil es ist ja auch am Anfang immer schwierig.
Ja, aber Goethe-Lehrkräfte sollten das nicht, nur die hat es trotzdem getan.
Ja.
Gell? Also gehen wir, ja.
So, Mark,
No, no.
I don't know whom you mean.
der Jim ist 67. Yeah.
Oh,
Jim
no,
took
that's
us.
not the one that I met.
That
then.
took around, yes,
Yes.
that was Jim. He took
looks
us
good.
all around Greater Boston.
Yes,
He
but
picked
he was
us up
not
at the
in the
train station.
60s.
Yeah, he is. So, Kevin, just to start us at the right point, you wanted to backtrack my walk home from school. And if you look at the second building here, the building that juts out a little bit,
Yes.
that was then a girls' high school, and it's probably now
It's a
an
music. There's something there with music. It's still a school.
Yes.
It's a school of against racism, school of courage.
Oh,
on
nice.
the thing.
Good.
And you hear a lot of music coming from there regularly.
Oh, and listen, when I called the reception yesterday to leave a message for you, it was a very polite gentleman.
Well, that's one of the brothers here.
Yes, I thought so.
He's very nice.
He was very accommodating, so I left the message
Yes.
to you, and then I said, before you hang up, I want to mention that the Church of St. Boniface was our school church.
Oh,
And
okay.
maybe not every month, but maybe every 3 months, we actually had a mass for all the Catholic girls in the school.
Oh,
It was-
in
it
the
was purely
basilica
a-
there.
Yes. And so he said, it's still the school parish for that school.
Ah, okay. All right, very nice. Because this is
So-
also a school, some technical school.
Oh,
here.
that's part of the technical university.
Okay. Because there's some other buildings down that way.
Oh yeah, it's so
Yeah,
big.
spread all over
Okay.
the place.
Yes. So we would get out of school over there. We all, as you know, we had half days, and on choir days we were in school until 1:30. We had choir at the end of the day, and so then we would get out here, walk along here, and we're going to walk exactly the way we did. We're stopping along the way for some amount of mischief, as you may imagine. So let's walk.
Okay.
The mischief was a sort of an intellectual kind of mischief. I'll tell you when we get to the.
This was his place on the left here. Joseph wrote, remember him from my book.
Yes.
That was associated, according to a historian friend, with the Catholic fraternity there in some way. And he would go in there and eat regularly, I think, as a student. Poyser might have also been there.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. There's a small restaurant
it
there.
was a dormitory facility.
It still is today in some way. I'm not sure what it is.
Oh, and Hannalore, I wanted to know where the soup kitchen is. Was it
It's,
where,
you know where
just
you,
where,
you know
where we
the-
came in?
where you moved
Yes.
things to park. That building right
On
there
the left.
is part of inside somewhere. There's also a kind of a meeting place bar for young people at night. It's very nice, and there's
And I
meeting
just saw
halls
I saw a sign that they also have full medical facilities.
there. I did not know that. Okay,
There's
yeah.
a sign on the door that
Yeah.
says, if you cannot pay 10 euros for your medical treatment, we will take care of you after all.
Very good.
Yeah.
No, they do a lot of different work there. That's
And
very
you
good.
said it's a huge soup kitchen, huh?
Yes. Well, I mean, in the morning, people come and go regularly. It's not like one sitting, so.
Gaby.
But you probably have like 50 people. About 50 people.
Du sollst ihn führen, damit nicht wohin hinstößt. Weil rückwärts geht. Nimm ihn bei der Hand. Ja, oder am Arm. I'm sorry. For some reason, Herb here thought that our conversation might be noteworthy enough for him to record it.
I see.
And this is
Okay.
his brand new microphone,
Ah.
which filters out background noise, especially wind noise,
Ah, okay.
because he's going to make a video with a friend of mine of hang gliding
Right.
training. And there will be wind on the mountaintops.
Kids, you would want to go right home, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but she lived in a different neighborhood.
Right. Okay.
At least not quite that same neighborhood.
And you live in Offing? Offing?
Otterfing.
Otterfing.
It's like the like snails.
Okay.
Otter. Kreuzotter.
King Ludwig I of Bavaria sent his second son to Greece. King Otto I of Greece was a Bavarian, and he was keenly interested in reviving Greek culture after the Turks had been driven out. So in the 1850s, King Ludwig I rode out to Ottobrunn on the edge of the city to bid his son farewell. And a whole, I don't know whether it was a regiment or what you would call it, anyway.
There were thousands of soldiers.
So it was probably a whole
accompanying him.
Bavarian regiment, all in very formal uniforms. They didn't actually accompany him in his little ship. Ludwig was only, Otto was only, I think, 17 when he became king of Greece. And so for a couple of years, a very distinguished Greek in exile became his regent. And then when he came of age at age 18, he was then formally declared to be king of Greece. And this was all arranged by the European allies who had defeated the Turks. And you can look up the details, who fought whom, but anyhow, the Turks slowly began to withdraw, at least from southern Greece. Northern Greece was a different story. That took a lot longer. But so the royal yacht went through the Mediterranean and went to the Peloponnese in southern Greece. And there was a great, beautiful celebration. And if you go to the Neue Pinakothek, which I will point out, there is the painting that shows the arrival of Otto in Nafplion. And all the Greek dignitaries and the palikars who were sort of tribal chieftains, they were all there, and they bent their knees to greet their new king, who was just a kid, you know. And then I think the next year, actually, as soon as Otto was 18, he was married to, astonishingly, a North German princess. But and it was an arranged marriage, but it was a great love. And they stayed together until they died. And for, I'm sorry, I didn't look it up, but they were king and queen of Greece for, what, almost 20 years?
Between 20 and 30 years.
Between 20 and 30 years. And then eventually the Greeks got tired of having a foreign ruler and more or less dismissed him pretty unceremoniously, and they had been very, very, very fond of Greece. They learned to speak Greek so well. Otto and his wife, they never had children, but they actually spoke Greek to each other. And when they were deposed, they returned to Germany. And I have a book of sort of memorabilia of that whole era of Bavaria in Greece. It's called Bayern in Griechenland. And it says toward the end that in their own free time, Otto and Amalia spoke to each other in Greek when they were back here in Bavaria. It was quite amazing. And they wore Greek tribal clothing in their own spare time. So I don't remember how long they lived after their return, but to them, Greece had become their home country. They really identified with it, and to them, personally, it was a tragedy that Otto was deposed. But of course, Greece had to go on with its own history. It's understandable. And so there were two great architects, several, of course, that worked for King Ludwig I here. And they would travel back and forth between Bavaria and Greece to get a feeling for ancient Greek architecture. And what you see here is the outcome of that. Some of these buildings, I know that's a Klenze building, but I think these are Gärtner buildings. I'd have to look it up. But they are pretty true to the three architectural phases of ancient Greece. Because you see, these are Doric columns with no pedestal and hardly any ornamentation except they are fluted. See, the indentation in the column is called fluting. And this is an exact replica of the entrance, the propylea, which were the entrance to the Acropolis of Athens. And the original propylea have been restored quite well. So if you go to Athens, you will go through the same sort of building. It was part of a complex. It is part of a complex in Athens. So this is just the central part of it. Then you go through and you enter the vast precinct of the sacred precinct of the Acropolis of Athens. Whereas when you come through here, you have sort of an epiphany because you've got an Ionic building over there. The columns are no longer fluted, but there are rings at the bottom, which makes it very graceful, and a different kind of top. And then you look over here, that's the last capitals on the fluted columns that are very ornate. You see that?
Yes.
It's an imitation of the acanthus plant, which grows very prolifically in Mediterranean countries, and so the Corinthian column always imitates that plant. And of course,
what is that? An art gallery today?
It's part of the Bavarian antiquity collections, and Herb and I are hoping to go to Aschaffenburg, not this coming week, but the week afterward. You know where that is? It's near Würzburg.
I laugh because one of the Brown priests ended up there.
In Aschaffenburg,
One of the archivists.
Right, and another part of the Bavarian antiquity collections is in Aschaffenburg.
Ah, okay.
In a building that was erected under Ludwig I, again, especially for that purpose. So it all hangs together very closely. When Klenze first designed this expanse, it was also the way it is now again, with, in fact, I think there were also flower beds. But when Hitler came to power, he established his headquarters. You asked about that, and we will go to Karolinenplatz.
Okay, that's the
yeah,
other
well,
house.
that's the America House, and that may be in the location where the Brown House was. I don't remember.
And it's now they're going to be building a historic center there. They're saying to kind of to do memory and study of that period in Munich. But I guess now they said that it's just there's nothing there right now.
Oh, well, we'll see. See, that's new to me also. But anyway, the buildings on the right and left there, no, that wasn't the America House, were administrative buildings for the Nazis. And since I walked home from school here, and then turned a left where you see that traffic signal back there, I had to walk past the Führerbau. That's what they were called, Führerbauten. But there were these horrible temples commemorating the dead of 1923.
Yeah, there's just the stands that are left.
Well, they were, I think, where those clusters of trees are now. So once I turned left, there was often a reception for some foreign dignitary. So then you had to fight your way past because there'd be
so many
curious onlookers. But what the Nazis did was they demolished the gardens that were in here, and there weren't any lamps here either, because they wanted the whole thing to be free for party events. And it's only after World War II and the demise of the Third Reich that this was repaired. The Glyptothek was built as the world's first sculpture museum, dedicated to that purpose, and it's beautiful inside. Some of the very rare sculptures excavated in Greece during the lifetime of King Ludwig I are on exhibit in here. And so then after World War II, first there was just completely unhindered traffic going through here, and then eventually they made this nice little sheltered area here, paved it nicely, and routed the traffic around. There's not terribly much traffic going through here. And then finally they planted grass again. So it is now it's now more like its original plan than it was for many years.
Very basic German, very basic, and quick practice for us.
Oh dear. Well, we'll try to get out of the sun.
No, that's all right.
This gets in my way. Use this.
And Herb, I thought that it would be a nice idea just to step into the Greek sculpture building over here, the Glyptothek, just for you to see it. I don't know whether you can film inside, but maybe you can because it's without flash. We won't have time today to go through the collections. That would take hours. Gaby and I went there, and I think we told you how a Russian museum employee followed us around and talked with us. So let's get on.
I did, but I left my watch home.
the plaque?
Yes,
I
this
couldn't
was-
remember.
a sign of peace.
Yeah. Because you all would, down here, they would not be celebrating a great deal the Franco-Prussian War, because that's what forced unification. So
Yes,
Bavarian individual.
That was the era of Ludwig II.
Yes, and that would be the end of Bavarian individualism sense.
Yes, which is actually the reason why Ludwig II became so insane, because it was such an indignity that he had to co-sign the Peace of Versailles. Was that what it was called? No, but they had to meet in Versailles to sign the peace.
Yeah, that's World War I.
Yeah, no, I mean 1871.
Oh, yes, the same place.
Was in the same
right.
place, yes. So
Because that's why they brought them there after World War. I mean,
Yeah.
after World War I, they did the same place in order to kind of have the equal humiliation.
yes. So let's go into the glyptothek just to see the beauty of the building.
Well, yes, I was just thinking there used to be theater performance there.
Yeah, we were there. Yeah.
Were we there
We were
once?
there, yeah.
But it wasn't very good at the time, was it?
The play wasn't good. The play was awful. It
Yes.
was a translation of an Aristophanes
Greek
play.
Oh.
translated to German.
But it just wasn't well done. No,
Well,
amateurish.
It,
Yeah.
it was a rather simple line. It's funny, we are all interested in classical plays, but nobody ever thinks. You see, when you hear classical, you always think it's something very high,
Yeah.
but it isn't.
No, a lot of them were pretty good. Stay in the bus as it
Yes,
travels?
yeah,
You just
yeah.
stay right in the bus. That's interesting.
And then, among other things, we visited Stratford upon Avon.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I'm out of speaking English, out of the practice.
Ja,
And I
ja.
always run out of words.
Ja. Sie können immer auf Deutsch sagen. Ich
Ach so,
verstehe es.
ja, ja,
Das ist nicht so,
ist
nicht so
vielleicht
kompliziert. Ja.
Und haben wir uns dort kannte ich. Und ja, ich bin dann eingeschlafen vor lauter Anstrengung wie immer. Aber ich glaube, dass es die Akustik war, die das verursacht hat. Und dann in der Pause habe ich dann meine Mutter, der auch wieder bei uns ist. Aber das
Aber es ist,
hat nichts geholfen.
wenn man benutzt das nicht regelmäßig, natürlich, wenn man das immer hört, es ist schwer. Ich weiß, dass nach ein ganzes
The lady here said that you can film in here as long as you don't ever use it commercially. And so this is one of Leo von Klenz's great triumphs, to have designed this building for the display of Greek sculptures that had been excavated in Greece during Otto's reign there, but also before it. And Otto's reign was started in the 1850s. And the walls were decorated in the original design, but there was very heavy damage of this building due to bombing in World War II. And I think the decision was made consciously to leave it unadorned, because it's not only a home for Greek sculpture, it's also almost a monument to the architect Leo von Klenze. And if it's unpainted, you can see the design and the construction much better than if it were stuccoed over and painted. And if you want, there is a chart there that shows the design. If you like, I will read to you the inscriptions over the entrances here and behind you. By command of the king to erect this building and to have it decorated. The night Leo Klenze did so, Helifried, executed the king's command. So Leo von Klenze is the architect. The king, the rooms were adorned by Peter Cornelius. Ja, in der Vorort von aber irgendwie ist nämlich die Erde auf Otto noch nachzuverfolgen. Es gibt ja auch ein historisches Stadtmuseum. Da ist zum Beispiel, das ist ein riesenlanger Stadtmuseum. Und bayerische Orte, ja, und bayerische Orte sind da alles geschwärt.
I have a picture book of Munich during the Nazi period and then after, and I've seen some of the pictures.
Yes.
Yeah, it was devastated. The city was.
Pardon?
Devastated.
Yes,
lots
it was completely.
Yeah.
And where they built the new house as well, most of them were with central heating then.
Yeah.
And of course the oil was reasonable at that time.
Yeah. Things have changed.
When I built this house out there, the architect was a school friend of mine, and he was really very good. He helped me save money at every corner.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to afford it.
Yes.
And I asked him, I said, well now, I got a very nice oil heating plant, but is there a second chimney? And he looked at me, he said, what do you want a second chimney for? Well, I said, just in case there is an oil shortage or anything. Oh, he said, the oil costs about five pfennigs a liter at that time. Why would you want to spend another 1,500 D-marks on a chimney? And I said, yeah, you may be right. But the same year that the house was finished, the first oil crisis started.
Did you put in your second chimney? No, okay.
Material, and these posters are part of that.
All the different columns.
Yeah, the different orders
That's a nice
of
one
ancient,
for artists.
yes, ancient columns. The composite columns, not part of Greek antiquity. That's the Renaissance. That's much later. But here in the middle, you have the three orders that I mentioned before: the Doric, which is the propylea.
Very basic.
Yes, very basic. Then the Ionic that has the scroll capital, and then the Corinthian. And the inscription over the doors there honors the architect here and then the original painter, because before the bombs destroyed this building, it was all illustrated by Peter Cornelius. And Peter Cornelius worked partly in Athens too, under King Otto.
So there were drawings on the walls?
Frescoes, yes. Yeah. We may find, I mean, if you had the time, or if you come back here in these photos, you will probably see
what it looked like
what
before.
it looked like.
But this was pretty much destroyed in the war.
It was badly destroyed.
Okay,
It's very sad, yeah. Very sad, because here you have something that never had anything to do with the military history or conquest or anything like that. And the inner court here is used for outdoor theater.
So Hannalore was telling me she's been to some shows.
We saw one here together, which we hated. It was just so crass. But there was a poster outside showing three.
Yes, she has
Oh yes, several plays, but her, of course, hasn't had an opportunity to mine. In that theater, in which had its first performance in Mozart's lifetime. So I'm hoping that he might be interested in that. It'll be expensive, but I think it's so probably because it's a festival.
But there's ticket agents.
Yes, but I have to speak to him first. If he wants to go, I think we can find a way to get in.
Hours there. I went through it very slowly because it's mainly in German.
Yes,
so I
it
went
is,
through very
yes.
slow, and it's very interesting because they have material in there I've never seen anywhere. A lot of original stuff.
Did you see there was either a chart or even a scale model of their grandiose plans of tearing down the historical parts of Munich and building these huge parade avenues.
Yeah, that was talked about there very negatively in the exhibition, but they showed you that. Yeah, nobody was very keen.
At least the war overtook those plans.
Yes,
and, I mean, Munich
but that
was destroyed
Berlin,
after
too, was
all.
the same way. They were going to. They had a lot of plans for Germania.
No, the whole city. Oh, the City Museum of Munich.
It's a special Ausstellung on the Third Reich in Munich. That it's actually it's more than 20 years old. The exhibit is.
Yes, it is.
Was done as a special,
Hannalore and I saw it when it was new, when it first
Right, because you gave
opened.
me the brochure, I think, when you got back of that.
When were you here the first time?
Well, we were here for a class reunion, and you and I decided to do something together, and so I said, would you be interested in seeing the Ausstellung Drittes Reich in München? So we met there.
For 30 years or so.
Oh, right, I think you told me about the, when you all met it, yes, that was very nice. You didn't even know you were at the same school, is that the story?
That's the story,
Right,
yes.
right, that is a great story
We
to
have become
hear.
acquainted through the medium of mutual old friends. But we never talked about school until we had this class reunion, and here's Hannalore, and she says to me, and what would you be doing here? So we discovered that we had gone to that same school, but Hannalore is, as you can see, younger than I. So she wasn't in the same grade, but we were in the same school, and then we quickly became close and did a lot of things together.
That's great.
So that time we did visit exhibit.
Uh-huh. Very nice. Because that was all over the city, according to the map they had there. They had the exhibit, you know, at the Stadtmuseum, but then
Yes.
they had all the
Other-
different places there were exhibits to go
Yes,
to, right?
we didn't have a chance to do
Yeah,
that.
that looked
because-
fascinating.
See,
Yeah.
that was the year, the second year, I think, that I was teaching at the Goethe Institute in Konstanz, and I had just come to Munich
Oh,
for
yeah, a
the
few days,
weekend
yeah.
for that reunion, and that's why we were able to go to the museum together, but then that evening I had
to
to
go
take
back.
the train back to
No,
Konstanz.
you came here another time while I was married. And
Yes.
you were staying at
At
Frau
Christa.
Schiesel's.
Yeah, well, that's a different time. I'm only talking about the time we went to that Third Reich exhibit. That was
Well,
when I was
this,
teaching in
this was not
Konstanz.
only, there was just a history of Munich, including
Yes, right.
the Third Reich.
Well, there was
Yeah.
one wing that
And,
was dedicated.
of course,
Yeah.
I am not terribly interested in that,
Sure.
having gone through it.
Yes, you had enough of
That's
it.
all
Yes.
I needed.
Yeah, yeah. It's painful memories.
Even nowadays, when they write about it in the papers and so on.
It seems to come up a lot in the papers. Every once in a while you'll have an
Well,
article.
it gives them something to write about.
Yes.
I think.
Well, you have
because
that professor who likes to popularize it. Guido Knopf, you know his stuff? If you go in any of the bookstores, you'll see it. He's written all these books on every aspect of it. They're very popular, a lot of stories in them, very easy to read,
I
very
don't
low
see
education level.
much point. I mean,
Yeah.
it's more than 50, 60 years ago. now.
Yeah.
If you look at the peristyle here, you see that's the two banners saying Starke Frauen, which means strong women. And since this is an antiquity collection of small arts, specific way, that is, they refused to consort with their husbands until they stopped that war with Athens. But I asked the lady in the picture, it's also about the Amazons, who were women warriors in Greek mythology. So all of this would be very interesting to go back to if you want to take the time.
That's right.
But mine wasn't. We didn't realize there were arms he worked in the administration of some Ministry of Agriculture.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's
But interestingly enough, the colors of modern wreaths are blue and white also, except it's not the Bavarian blue and white, it's the Danish blue and white.
really made people run after it like
Two buildings, you may have to step up a little. These two stone buildings to the right and left were Nazi administrative buildings. Sort of reception facility in this building on the left, because that's what I walked past on my way home. And afterwards, when there were some pictures. Yes, here, just the corners here. That's the remains of the memorial buildings.
Yes.
They had.
But yeah, did you have to? Because I learned about the Odeon's plots. I didn't know that
You had to salute.
you had to salute, and there was a little road that people would take, so they didn't have to salute. And I didn't know that. I'd never heard that before.
I wrote it.
You probably did in that piece, and it just didn't stick in my mind. And now here
you did not have to salute, but you couldn't enter them, which was just as well. And they had.
Well, they wouldn't allow you to go along. Okay.
No, but there were chains around. But they had these flat sort of vats. And they kept an eternal flame in both of them. It was all sort of pseudo-religious stuff, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So this whole area, all the way over to Karolinenplatz, where the obelisk is, was very much a focal point.
This is amazing. That's a music school today, right?
It is now. It's the conservatory.
Which building is music high school?
That's the conservatory, not music high school. Music college.
Sorry, I was confused.
Music high school and conservatory, is there any difference?
No, high school is not a college.
Hochschule,
used the wrong word.
That wing over there, I think, is the Bavarian graphic collection, so it's part of the art complex.
They said that I had Saturday I went on this tour. I'm not sure if everything was right, but it was the Third Reich. Sure. I've been wanting to do this. A lot of students have gone on this tour, and they always ask me, and I said, well, let me take it. So I took the extended tour, and it was interesting. The second part wasn't as good as the first part.
Did they point out which was the Brown House?
He just said in this area, we came from this area, I think, and he said behind here is where it was, and now it's just a field. He didn't show us exactly where it was.
We'll walk around.
Okay, I'm interested to see that.
Yes, I thought you would be.
Yeah.
So this...
I teach, that's my area. I
just history?
I teach German history. My area is that's my specialty. That's why I'm interested to talk to you. I'm one of those bad people who keep bringing it up.
No, and
history of the
German history
of the Third Reich.
Right now in Indiana at Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame.
At the university, and the students would be interested in Nazi history.
My classes
that's his field.
They fill up though. They're fascinated. They fill up. As soon as they're available, they're full. Yeah, I teach a course on the Holocaust and a course on the history of national. So I teach other courses on modern Germany, going back to Napoleon to today, and so I teach a lot. But those are the two big courses of the Holocaust. And the Holocaust, I come over here. I bring them to Poland and to the Czech Republic and to Berlin, and we see things. And now the Third Reich, I'd like to bring them to Germany, but I can't. It's you can get. Well, it's not only that you can get. People will sponsor you to take a trip. You know, we're dealing with the Holocaust, but the history of the Third Reich, it's a little harder to get somebody behind it and interested.
Nobody except Americans
would want to do that, right? Yeah. The Brits are pretty. There's a lot written in Britain too, I think, on that subject. Yeah, especially the war. But yeah, it's Americans. We're a little bit.
Well, see, I'm quite old, and
so let's cross here.
And I've heard it.
Let's cross here and go toward the obelisk.
My son was quite interested in it.
Here's the brown house. That's not the first brown house, though. There was another one we went to, the Heinrich Kaufmann's studio.
Oh, yeah?
Near, I don't know if I can find it again. I didn't write stuff there.
Schellingstrasse.
Somewhere near there, yes.
Well, the party newspaper.
And it's right near there, across the street, in the courtyard is where Hitler met.
Well, it would be listed here.
far as I can remember, it was at the end of the now it's in 42.
And that's where they're supposed to build a new museum.
Oh, yes, yeah. That's good. Are you getting hungry?
I can eat whatever you all like.
Oh, yes.
I do have a memory of a postcard that my sister brought home. I have no idea who gave it to her, of Hitler sitting out here, perhaps on the stone steps here. He was walking his favorite dog. He always had German Shepherd dogs, you know. And so that was used to make him look like a really folksy character. He's just walking on the sidewalk, and you could walk past him and greet him. Of course, you were expected to use the German salute. But he did have an apartment here with his wife. And they had, what, 2 sons, I guess. None of which I think is terribly interesting.
So this is the spot where
This is not his home. His headquarters were here, and it was called the Brown House because brown was the identifier color of the Nazis early on, before he ever acceded to the chancellorship in 1933. You know, they grew slowly with the great help of German and American industrialists who wanted to see Germany rearmed and powerful, and he was a more than willing instrument, and they more than willingly supported him with plenty of money. If you see early pictures, and you can ask Kevin about this, how early the photographs are of SA troops in very high quality uniforms. And this goes back to the 1920s, about 10 years before he actually became chancellor. So none of it is much of a coincidence.
In diese Richtungen. Ich weiß es nicht.
Gemeint, Sie können dazu.
Ja, ja.
Könnten Sie da beleidigen?
Ja, das stimmt.
Sie werden offiziell akzeptiert, aber jedermann spricht darüber negativ, über Homosexuelle.
Ja.
Es ist, ja, ich weiß nicht, ich habe mal jemanden gekannt, aber ich wusste das nicht.
Mhm, ja.
Und dann habe ich einmal wir haben Blödsinn gemacht, und es waren Amerikaner. Und dann habe ich gesagt, you're talking like a girl.
Yeah.
And only months afterwards, I found out he was really.
Yeah.
And I was really ashamed and embarrassed.
Shameless.
But at the time we were joking.
Yeah.
And the things, you know how it goes when you start kidding each other, and it escalates.
Yeah.
And of course he said something to
What's this? See, the name is right there. And we would like to know when this obelisk was erected. This is not one of Napoleon's obelisks that he brought from Egypt. It was, as Hannalore said, melted down cannons after.
family that was quite wealthy, Hugo something, and I should know this, but that's where Hitler would come, and that's where he supposedly learned manners, table manners, to be able to eat.
I thought
Das
he
war
learned.
der Verleger wahrscheinlich. Der,
Hugendubel.
He didn't.
Nein, wie hatten wir noch
der die, der auch
Putzi?
Nein, it wasn't
völkischen Bürger.
Hofstegel. No.
Nicht Amsterdam.
No, it's another wealthy family.
But
He would
also
come in.
Wagner's wife, who was English,
Yes.
she taught him how to wear elegant
Right.
clothing.
Yeah.
Oh, here he learned table.
Was it another
Yeah.
place, I guess, where people met, people who
Nee,
were wealthy,
Cosima
and he made a lot of
Wagner's-
contacts there in this,
Richard
that was their
Wagner's
home at the time.
Der Nachfolger.
That's the building we're referring to.
Nacht über Bayreuth. It was written by another daughter of this, I don't know, daughter of Winifred. I'm
Okay.
not sure. She's the black sheep in
Yeah.
the family.
Yes. There's another one though by a legit, real legitimate historian. I think an Austrian historian, and it's been translated. Brigitte Helm or something by that too. It came out a few years ago. Yeah, very interesting.
Of the side was the Gestapo headquarters. I think it's
That's
this.
the Gestapo. That's a plaque there on the corner where the
Oh.
students are
Oh
standing.
yes, so Herb should cross back over
Yeah.
and do that. This is not a good memory of me because my stepfather was interrogated.
In there, in that building. That's the a new building. They had.
Yeah,
They tore that down.
Fortunately, yes.
Yeah, it was partly destroyed, and they said nobody wanted to remember it, so they
Yeah,
put
it
up a
was
new
the
building.
Gestapo,
Yeah.
Gestapo headquarters.
Yeah.
So if you want, there is a plaque on the corner.
That was
of
part
the
of my
building,
tour
yeah.
on Saturday.
Yeah.
Liest du die Tafel ganz kurz mal? Oder geh noch mal ein bisschen mehr vielleicht drauf ein?
Ja,
Also vielleicht
ja
kommt
die
schon was.
kommt, also habe ich hier auch noch.
Vielleicht kommt von selbst was, aber es ist nur, dass ich vorbereitet. Hä?
Ja, ich bin ja noch nicht fertig. Die Störung hat vorher.
Also nee, du kannst schon hier
Kann
am Rand reden.
Kevin remembers some of the story about my stepfather, and here is the lighter side of him. He was a fairly well-known artist in the artist quarter in Munich, and he had a group of friends with whom he would meet once a week over a glass of wine. I don't think they were beer drinkers. And so the story is, and I have read this by one person who survived the Nazi era and wrote an article about it for the Bavarian Academy of Sciences. And what they did was one evening when they were sitting in this pub in Schwabing, having a glass of wine, Krommes, my stepfather, boasted that he could find water with a cleft stick. What is it called?
Divining rod.
Divining water. He could do this. A divining rod, which is a very evenly built natural stick with a fork at the end. So they made arrangements to meet in the English Gardens, which are just down the street here, to meet, and he would demonstrate his prowess as a diviner of water sources. And so he brought his stick with him, and he also very thoughtfully hired a workman with tools to dig down to actually prove that his divining rod had found water. So they're taking a walk in the outer reaches of the English Gardens, and so he pulls out his divining rod and he walks along, and it starts shaking vigorously, which is a sign there's water underneath, you know. So he brings over the workman and he starts to dig down into the ground, and a huge fountain of water shoots up in the air. Gaby is already guessing what happened. They had struck the municipal water line, water main. So, of course, Krommes was at fault for all this, and he was hauled before the judge, and the judge could see the humor in the whole thing, and instead of sentencing him to a jail term, he sentenced him to having to report to the police once a week. I don't quite understand the rationale of it, but that's what it was. But this was before 1933, and then after that he had to continue reporting to the police.
Well, he continued throughout the Third Reich doing
Well, as long as he was at liberty to do it, yes.
Wow.
But once in a while, you see, they had planted someone, I don't want to go into great details, but they had planted a man whom he trusted, who was another artist, to spy on him. And of course, he never, ever kept his mouth shut about his feelings. And this man would occasionally report what he had said, and that's why they would haul him in here.
That was very common. That's how you only had so many people actually officially on the payroll, but you had plenty of people willing to do that, or forced into position to do that. Yeah.
Specific memorial is for the murdered gypsies, because it's always highlighted that Nazi Germany murdered 6 million Jews, which unfortunately is the truth, of course, as we all know. But there were not only dissenters from National Socialism that were murdered, but also other so-called ethnic groups, and the gypsies were very badly persecuted. And this here is one of the memorials. There are other memorials along here, at least one. There's one more over there that we haven't read.
This is woman dwelling, the men dominate families, and for a woman to come in and study them and deal with them. But she's been able to do them.
Well, you know, I had
Bavaria, of course, was a principality of enormous age compared with other German states. And it goes back to the late Roman era as a political entity. And so when one of the emperors decided to establish a council of electors that would henceforth be responsible for choosing all future emperors of the German Empire. This is the medieval German Empire. Then Bavaria again became one of the very important members of that electoral council. And here you have one of the prince electors by the name of Maximilian, and I don't particularly care for him because he ruled during the 30 Years' War, in which the Catholic states banded together and attacked the Protestant churches. Some states went back and forth between being Protestant and Catholic, but of course Austria and Bavaria were always Catholic power factors. And I'm afraid I have to say that during the 30 Years' War, the Bavarians were just as cruel at conquering and taking advantage of non-Catholic populations in the German-speaking world as any other, and he presided over that, so that's why I don't care for Maximilian. And that's not exactly a historical viewpoint.
Ist auch kein Neuling, er ist öfters hier dabei gewesen und hat gute Stimmen gesagt. Hallo, sagt und? Habt ihr heute viel schöne Musik mitgebracht?
Ich habe Klassentreffen.
Und wir hoffen, dass das Publikum mitmacht und mittanzt, oder?
Genau. Dann haben wir noch Lefteris. Lefteris, was sagst du zu der Musik? Was ist das erste Stück, was wir spielen werden? Also, meine Damen und Herren, viel Spaß mit dem Ensemble Amiras Kalias. Bitte schön.
Und Stratopoulos.
Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Tu fais des courses? Oui, mais attends. Faut commander ça.
Lots of them try to keep the cafes open. The same way. Most of the people there are German. They where we were.
Devoted to ancient Greek literature. The frescoes show the names of the towns with very pretty illustrations that a certain Greek writer was from in antiquity, and then they quote from him. And I just think it's so interesting. I could spend hours.
Danach steht 11, 4 mit 12.
So it starts with the major Greek cities, and then it goes on to the islands and smaller places. And the poets that represented these locations, I never knew about this. No, it's not very old. No, it wasn't here in the past. It's something post.
Nein, ich glaube nicht.
Left now, that's Ilse Andrews, one of the three very, very much beloved popular figures in Munich. Before and until after World War II, she's a writer, was a writer of some significance. There are, on the other end of the market, are the most beloved comedians, Bavarian comedians, who worked together all their lives and brought a lot of joy and were made the subjects of anti-Nazi jokes during the Nazi era. Of course, they themselves didn't do all the things that were attributed to them because they would not have survived. But jokes are a good way to survive a dictatorship. So then if you make a complete turn back completely, this is important because in its place stood the very first parish church of the town of Munich. In other words, about 850 years ago. What I want to focus on is World War II destruction. Pointless, mindless destruction by bombs. This venerable building was not completely destroyed, but its tower fell down. And everyone in Munich who loved the city wanted to help collect small amounts of money to have it rebuilt. And the first public radio station after World War II, just as soon as we had radio stations again, wanted to help with the reconstruction of this church, St. Peter's Church. And it is customary in German radio stations to have a signal, an intermission signal between programs. And one of the popular songs of Munich started Solange alte Peter, because it says as long as St. Peter is still on its hill and the Hofbräuhaus is still down on the Platz, so that's how long Munich will be a viable place. But it no longer did stand used fully on its hill, and so the intermission signal of the radio station broke off after P. Skipped the last syllable. And people from other cities who didn't know what this was all about made fun of the Bavarian radio station. And I used to get so upset over it because it was a sign that we hadn't given up on this church, but we knew it wasn't complete. And then once the repairs had been made, then the intermission signal added that last syllable. Oh, and down by the bonfire. Try to see about that.
This is Hannalore's home in Otterfing, Germany. We're going to take a ride into Holzkirchen.
Do I have
Down
to?
and to the right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, your clutch is...
Clear on the right? On
Yes,
this
it's all
side?
clear. Let your clutch out more. You're not letting the clutch out enough. Off we go. It's all clear.
Yeah.
Beautiful fields. It's all right, you can do that just temporarily. Just take me a second.